Well, I have quite a few thoughts on this particular discussion. I actually have a lot of personal experience with it. Be sure that you really pay attention to the Deborah Tannen articles and short clips, all right? She's really famous for gender communication studies. How do men and women communicate? How do they communicate differently, okay? So cultures include genders, all right? So one thing is, it's very clear, and I think you could, when I say this, you're going to recognize it. Men like to fix things, okay? I grew up fixing cars. My dad and I were always fixing cars, that kind of stuff. I still fix things. I don't fix cars anymore, all right? I like to keep my fingernails clean. But I do a lot of fixing of things, okay? Women, I want to say, and you can whack me in the head if you want, women like to process things, okay? More process-oriented. Men are more fix-it. Women are more process, all right? And so an example of this in my own life, and I was really confused until I read some of Deborah Tannen's works, all right? Halfway through my marriage, halfway through my marriage, we'll say, Susan, my wife, would come home from work and want to talk about her day, right? And she was a technology coordinator for a large school system and a lot of issues, a lot of problems. And so I would suggest fixes and stuff. And these conversations would always go very badly. She would end up being very mad, very frustrated at me. And I would never know why. Okay, just what do I do, right? So I read Deborah Tannen, and Deborah reached out to me and said, Worth, she just wants to talk. Just listen to her so she can process it herself. All right, so that's an example, okay? Then another example, I have this thing called mansplaining, and I do think it's real, and I don't get it from a woman's point of view, all right? Because I know a lot of things, so I like to explain things, all right? Been around a long time. So, but recently there was a hiker up where we live, a more than middle-aged lady, and she was going to go on a big hike out in Spain, this kind of Way of Christ thing, where they follow the missionary trail, Way of the Missions, I think, and long hike, day after day after day, right? And she bought some new hiking poles, and she'd go hiking with us. And there's a certain way that you hold the hiking poles. They have straps on them, all right? And if you just grip the pole and grip the straps, you have this gripping problem. It hurts after a while, right? But if you use the straps to wrap around the back of your wrist and you pull down on it a little bit and hold the pole, you get about half the weight of your hands and arms on the wrist strap and then other half on your grip from your hands. And I tried to explain this to her, and she wanted no part of it, okay? Didn't want to hear me, all right? And I said, well, look, you want to look cool for sure. And she just, no, I don't want to look cool. I don't care about that. I said, oh, okay, whatever, right? So I had to give up. And I was a little frustrated. I still remember it all these years. So anyway, that's a difference between how men and women communicate, right? And this is my own experience, my own life. Now, another issue, too, is you look at the second question, is are different groups of people disadvantaged by the way they communicate? And I would say yes, all right? So what do they call a loud, assertive, aggressive man? Chief Executive Officer, a CEO. What do they call a loud, aggressive, assertive woman? A bitch. All right? Okay. How many times do you hear this about Hillary Clinton? Okay, just think about that. All right? So that's different. Yeah, women, when they raise their voice, are really jumped on by other people. Okay, and sometimes to get your point across, because men aren't listening. Don't forget, men aren't good listeners. We're always trying to figure out how to help you. Fix it. All right? We want to look good, look cool. So we're not always listening well. All right? So sometimes women have to raise their voice to be heard. All right? But then you risk being called a bitch, right? Or angry. You're angry all the time. If you're too assertive, you're angry, right? Then another conversational difference is, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, all right? Men like to drive to the point. What's your point? Let's get to it, right? Women like to process, okay? So the number of times in a relationship with a woman, all right, I've had to take back things I've said because I went too fast. I drove to the point, whereas she was still processing the information, thinking about things, trying to come up with the best solution. Whereas I'm just driving right to the first thing that comes to my mind. All right, so I've had to retract a lot of statements and that kind of thing. So I think that's enough of that, but you see my point here. So I hope you enjoyed this discussion. I think it's a really valuable lesson here.